Hello friends, welcome back to Belle's Library. I'm Heather and I am here with a long overdue video. So a few months ago I decided I wasn't going to do monthly wrap-ups and I was going to switch to doing some recent reads for things that didn't fit into vlogs. Honestly, almost all of my reading has been in vlogs lately. I just didn't want to repeat myself if I had already talked about it in a vlog. So I was going to do quarterly wrap-ups where we could talk a little bit more about my stats and some of the books that I really loved and maybe some that I really didn't love during the few months of each quarter. Well, I mean, I technically should have put this up last month because we have June, July, and August. No, July and August and September is the third quarter of the year. And just October is so busy for me with school usually, like September and October. Last year were really hard for me to get videos up. I think October was the least amount of videos I got up last year. I think probably this year too. But I also was captaining the Trick or Treat-a-thon and doing vlogs for all of that. And so it didn't quite happen. So I'm a little late, but that's what we're doing today. We're going to talk about my stats for those 3 months. We're going to talk about some of the books that I loved and did not love within those 3 months as well. And yeah, we're going to wrap up those 3 months and hopefully, you know, in January, I can get up the last quarter of the year and I won't be super late. Before we jump into all of that, please get down below and subscribe to my channel. I'd love to chit chat with you guys more and have you hear more. And also I will have my Goodreads and Instagram linked for you guys that you can go chit chat with me over there as well. So let's go ahead and start with the stats really quick. I just have a few that I kind of compiled together for you guys, and then we'll move into talking about some of the books for each month that I liked and didn't like. So let's start by talking about the genres that I read because I'm actually really surprised, but the most read genre for me was horror. I shouldn't be surprised because we don't even have October in here. You know what it was, is in July, they had Summerween going on, and I read a bunch of horror books for that. So that probably bumped that up there. And then we were getting into fall season, and I was feeling the vibes in September. So yeah, 15 out of the 50 books that I read in those 3 months were horror novels. Then we had fantasy. I had 13 fantasy reads. I had 8 contemporary and 4 romance and 3 mysteries, 2 historical fictions, and 1 science fiction. Oh, and 4 thrillers. So I feel like that's not adding up correctly. Within that, I actually read 31 of the 50 books were physical or ebooks, and 18 of them were audiobooks, and just 1 of them I kind of did a little bit of both. So I'm surprised to actually see that it's not a little bit more 50-50. I've been reading a little bit more as far as physical book reading. I think I still really love audiobooks, but I haven't been driving as much, especially in the summer. I don't have school I'm driving back and forth to at all. And just when family's home, it's hard to have my headphones in all the time when I'm doing stuff. So I guess that's kind of decreased some of that. I think also sometimes I get a little bit more from physical books. I know there's certain books that I have a hard time reading on audio if they have like a lot of characters or something like that. It's a lot to follow sometimes. So I know there's been a few books that I started on audio and I was like, no, this is not going to work. So I went and grabbed the physical book of it. So maybe that's a little bit of that as well. I think I also read a chunk of graphic novels maybe. So obviously those would be physical or ebook form. So maybe that's kind of why we're a little off, because usually I feel like we're pretty close to 50-50. Now, age range, I had 27 YA, 21 adult, and then I had 1 new adult and 1 middle grade, which I feel like is pretty on par with what I read. I feel like I read mostly YA and adult, and slightly more YA than adult. But yeah, so that's pretty close, and then a little bit of middle grade and new adult usually like squeezing itself in there. That seems about correct. And then star rating wise, so 5 stars, I had 10 of those. 4 stars, I had 20, which I always have the most 4 stars. But 3 stars, I had 17. And that's like surprising. Usually my 3 stars and my 5 stars are pretty equal. Definitely was kind of like lower rating on some of these books. 2 stars, I had one of those, and then I DNF'd 2 books as well during those 3 months. So I have been trying to just DNF books that I'm not enjoying because I don't want to read things that I'm not enjoying because I have so many other things that I do want to read. I mean, my Goodreads is pushing 1,000 here soon, so definitely have plenty of book options that I can try. If I'm not enjoying a book, I need to get better about just saying, no, we're done with it. So out of the 50 books, I did have 10 books that I read from authors of color, and 9 books of the 50 had some kind of LGBTQ plus rep. So trying to get a little bit of that rep in there. I would like that number to be a little higher, but I am pretty sure that it's not gonna do great this last quarter because I'm really trying to read off of my shelves. And a lot of the books that I bought were a few years ago that I'm trying to read through, and I wasn't as aware as I should have been as far as reading and buying more from a diverse amount of authors. So unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at, but I need to read through my shelves really bad as I'm going to be moving across country very soon, and I can't bring all of these books with me. So I'm trying to unhaul and get rid of stuff so I have less books to move. So I don't know that I have a ton of control over that. So I'm hoping jumping into the new year will be way better as far as that goes. So let's go ahead and jump back to, we'll take it month by month. I'll tell you how many books I read, how many pages that was, and some of my favorites and not favorites from each of those 3 months. So let's start with July. I actually read 20 books in July, and that was 5,250 pages. So that is quite a bit. I usually read a ton in July because it's summer, I don't have school, I'm home, it's a good month to read, pretty much. So I actually have 3 that I listed as favorites in this month and 2 that were kind of duds for me. So I've been thinking about this book so much lately. I really enjoyed 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I cannot wait for the sequel to come out. I want to go back and read her other stuff. Like, I just adored it. Like, the fairy tale writing was so wonderful. I loved the plot and the characters and the growth that our main character had. Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. It was just this fun fantasy tale, but also we had a little bit of a romance mixed in there, which I really enjoy. So in this one, we are following Princess Shiori, and she has a little bit of magic, but she doesn't want anybody to know because magic is outlawed in her kingdom, and so she's keeping it hidden. But one day, her stepmom sees this magic, and she ends up showing that she has some dark magic of herself, and basically she sends Shiori out into Timbuktu out there, and she tells her, she's all, you cannot speak a word. Any word that you speak is going to kill one of your brothers. And she has 6 brothers. So she can't talk. She has this pail on her head that the queen made stuck to her head. So nobody can recognize her, and everybody's like, where's the princess? She's missing, and she can't tell anybody. And so she really goes on this journey trying to figure out, basically going from royalty to this peasant, and she's trying to work for money and figure out how to get back to her kingdom and save them from her evil stepmother. And her brothers all got turned into cranes, so pretty much all of the royal children are missing. And yeah, it was so good. I really enjoyed it. I also read the sequel to City of Brass, Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty in July. Oh my gosh, I loved it even more than City of Brass, and I love City of Brass. It is such a fun series. We're following Nari, and she, in the first book, we're basically following her. She lives in Cairo, and she's does this healing stuff, and one day she performs this ritual, and basically she's like, oh, we're doing this thing. She accidentally summons a Jinn warrior, and kind of opens up all of this baggage of stuff going on with the Jinn, and the Jinn takes her to the City of Brass, which is where all of them live. But there is 5 different clans, I think, within there, and a lot of political stuff going on between these clans and warring things that have been going on for centuries, and Nari gets kind of thrown into the middle of the mix of this, and yeah, it just continues into the second book, and it's just wonderful, and I loved it. It's a pretty big book, and I flew through it. And then the last book that I really enjoyed for the month was Thornhill. This is by Pam Smee. And this one's a little different. So I really enjoyed kind of the mixed media element that was going on in this one. So this one, you're following two different timelines with two different girls. And in one of the timelines, it's like diary entries that she wrote. The other timeline, she draws things. So you're following like drawings, and that's unfolding the story in there. So the diary entries are written by this girl who went to Thornhill, which is like a home for girls that are like orphaned. And she's getting bullied and just having a really hard time. And it's her kind of diarying, telling, and she's there up until Thornhill is closing. And then the present day timeline, we're following this other girl. She's drawing pictures of, she just moved into a new house, and next door there's this building that's kind of like broken down, and it was where Thornhill used to be. It's like 50 years later, but she keeps seeing this girl like in the yard and in the building, and she's trying to figure out what's going on with this girl and what happened to this building, and their paths kind of collide. And so you're trying to follow both of these. I really enjoyed the mixed ways that you're following the story. I thought it was really fun. Definitely a really hard topic, and I think it was done well and talked about well. But just go into this book, if you're going to read it, knowing that it's talking about bullying, and it's not an easy topic, and it's not an easy thing to read about at all. As far as books that I did not enjoy so much, we've got The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslie Walton. I did not like the end of this book at all. It was pretty decent, like through a lot of it, and then the end I was just like, why? The last quarter, just, why did we decide to do that of all things? Like, I don't know. I didn't like the trajectory it went. I feel like it meandered. I feel like I've forgotten a lot of the things that actually happened. We're basically following generations of this family, to be quite honest. It's kind of pitched as we're following Ava Lavender, and she's born with wings, and we're following her journey and how she's growing up, and then she meets Nathaniel Sorrows, and the two of them collide in this big hoopla at the end of the summer solstice. Not sure I have much more to say on that one. It had this magical realism element, but we also ended up following other people within the family and like their generations leading up to Ava as well. And the writing was pretty. I will say that. I should have a vlog out or coming out with more details on how I felt about this book. If it's out, I'll put it up above. If not, it's coming soon. The other book was Paper Towns by John Green. I didn't like this book very much at all. I thought that the main characters just were kind of whiny, teenagery. I didn't see the point of how it ended. I was like, really? Okay, like that was stupid. It's about this like guy who lives next to this girl, and the girl goes missing but leaves clues for him to find out, even though they haven't been friends for years. And he follows these clues to find her, and yeah, it was just. Now moving into August, I had 18 books I read. I read 5,646 pages, so I still was quite on a reading roll. I also did a ton of really fun readathons over the summer, so that probably helped too. Some of my favorites, oh my gosh, I had some really good books in this month. Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert, my favorite of the Brown sisters books. I think the two of them were so cute. So we're following Eve, and her parents basically say, it's time for you to grow up. We're going to cut you off from your trust fund, and you need to like get a job and stick with it instead of bouncing around to all these different jobs and not being responsible. So she's upset, and she ends up taking a drive, and she finds this little like inn, and they're hiring a chef. So she goes in to interview for the job, and the owner's like, no, we don't like you. You're chaos. You're so bubbly. And he's just like, no. But then on the way out, she accidentally hits him with her car. So in an effort to kind of like help him, because now he's, you know, a little bit disabled, he's got like I think he was on crutches. I don't know if he had a cast. I don't think so. But she decides to stick around and she's helping him run the inn. And the two of them just have this cute little romance, and I just loved it because it was like this fun hate to love, but then like it was just ushy gushy and cute, and I just adored it. And he has autism, so there is rep of being on the spectrum, but also a little bit with women being on the spectrum too, which is, I know, a big thing that a lot of times it's being realized that women are having a hard time actually being diagnosed and realizing that they're on the spectrum because it looks different than it does in men. So anyways, it was adorably cute and fun, and it was my favorite Brown Sisters book. So that was great. Then we had The Cost of Knowing by Brittany Morris, and I just love her books. I bawled my eyes out reading this book. Oh my gosh. Heart-wrenching. Her books are just, they take you along and tell you this beautiful story to where you're just entranced, like you're reading a fiction story, but then also they have such hard-hitting topics as well on top of that, and they are just amazing. So in this one, we're following, I can't remember his name, but our main character, basically when he touches objects or people or anything like that, he sees their future. And so one day he touches this old photograph and he sees his brother is going to die. And so he basically is trying to catch up on any time he can before this happens, because he has no control over changing any of these things. He's tried to change it in the past and he just can't. And so he's trying to accept that this is going to happen and try and figure out when it's going to happen and try and spend some time with his brother. But yeah, just that ending, oh my goodness. It just like, it's so beautiful and heart-wrenching. And Brittany Morris is like my favorite author ever. I loved Slay. I cannot wait to see what else she comes out with. Oh my gosh, I want her to come out with a book right now. So, last book that I really, really enjoyed. I actually have a good, like, kind of mix of genres here in this month. I had a romance, I had a contemporary for you, and I also have a mystery thriller. Where is it at? So, Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This is my favorite Riley Sager. I really, really enjoy this one. So, in this one, we're following this girl. She, like, moves into this really old building in New York City, and she's going to do some apartment sitting for this supposed family going on, and some weird stuff starts happening. She starts realizing that, she actually starts talking to another apartment sitter in the building, and then the next day that apartment sitter goes missing after saying that she felt like some weird stuff was going on. And then our main character realizes that that is not the first apartment sitter to have gone missing. And there's also some really weird rules with the apartment sitting. So they can have no visitors ever, no nights spent away from the apartment, and there's no disturbing the other residents, all of whom are rich or famous or both. I just thought this was so much fun. It was entertaining and thrilling and kept me moving through the story. I was trying to piece together what was going on, and the characters just like connected, and I just loved it. I really enjoyed it. I did not expect where it went at the end. I think that's why some people, like, it's kind of controversial because of the way it kind of goes in the end, but I really liked it. I thought it was well explained why they went that direction, but definitely something I never would have even thought of. So that was a really fun one. Then moving into September, as I said, September and October definitely get busier for me. I only read 12 books, 4,274 pages. This was my second lowest month as far as pages go for the year, February being the lowest, which is also a shorter month, so kind of makes sense. In this month, I actually only have books that I enjoyed. I don't have any that I like flat out just didn't like at all. So there's that. That's good. So one of the books was Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Ademi. And I really, really enjoyed this. I read it with Rye from Rye's Reading Corner. We had a good time buddy reading this. And in this one, we are following Zelly. And when she was a kid, magic just disappeared from her whole land, and all of the magi were brutally massacred, and her mom was a magi. And as a kid, you don't have your powers yet, but you have this white hair that says that you are going to. And when you reach, I can't remember if it was like 16 or 18, basically your magic all comes in. And so it's almost time for Zelly to get her magic, but she's not going to because there's no magic in this world. But she is presented with this opportunity to bring magic back. It could be the last chance. And so she embarks on this journey, and she teams up with a couple of unsuspecting people, one of them being the princess of the land, and also she's being like chased by the prince. So I really enjoyed the different directions this went. I was really surprised by some of the stuff that happened at the end, and that we went that far with some of the characters. I was like, oh my gosh, what did this just happen? So yeah, there's a little bit of like a love triangle-ish in here, but it doesn't take a ton of the plot, I feel like. And there's just a lot of like finding yourself and who you are, and finding strength in that. And there's like, you go through a ton of different kind of, it's almost, I feel like you're going through different trials as you're going through these different areas. There's like a jungle scene, there's an area in like this really sandy desert area, and some stuff that they have to kind of overcome in these different areas, and an island area. So to me, like, I really enjoy kind of trials and competition type stuff. So I kind of enjoyed that. I enjoyed the change in scenery throughout the book. I mean, it is a chunkier book. We're in the 500 page range. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. Also loved Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is my first Brandon Sanderson that I read, and it was a blast. We do have a school in here where we're kind of competing for a spot to be a fighter pilot, I guess. So basically we're following Spensa, and she really wants to be a pilot and fight the Krell. The Krell come down from onto the planet when they can, when there's like breaks in the debris and stuff in the atmosphere, and they're trying to attack the people, and the people have kind of built a life underground in this planet. And because I think Earth must have been like dying or something, so people went out, and this particular group years and years and generations ago landed on this planet and have been stuck here, and they kind of just, to get away from the Krell, they built everything underground. So, but they need the pilots to kind of help fight off the Krell because they do come attack from above. And Spensa's father was a pilot, and he has now called a coward because supposedly in the middle of one of the biggest, most epic fights that they've had, he took off and like left. And the father did not make it after that. So she has been fatherless her whole life. She's been raised by her mom and her grandma. And now she gets into this flight school. But she's still having a really hard time because everybody thinks she's going to be a coward, and she's not given the resources the same as everybody else. So she's really trying to fight for her position. And I just really enjoyed the flight school aspect. I think the writing was so easy and accessible, and just, I was invested in Spensa. Oh my gosh, I loved her. She found this ship, and it had like this sentient being going on with it, and it just reminded me of like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory, the way it would talk, and it was just like, and then Spensa was like so sarcastic with him back, and he would just be like, well, no, that's just logically how things work. And so much fun, so much fun. And the last book that I really enjoyed that month, which I'm actually surprised, I feel like this book has really started growing on me more and more, is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I really had a lot of fun with this book. So August moves to New York in this, and she moves in with all of these roommates. She's renting a room from them. They all kind of make a very quirky, fun, found family, which I really enjoyed. And she takes the train back and forth to her job, and she meets Jane, who she finds to be a mysterious, gorgeous girl. But she also finds out that Jane has been stuck on this train, and she's from the 70s. And so we just have this really fun dynamic where we're trying to figure out if we can get Jane off of this train and figure out what's going on with this time differential and everything, but also this really cute romance between August and Jane. And August is showing Jane some of the things that are happening in the world now and some of the new technology that's going on, and Jane's kind of sharing her love of 70s music with August, and so they're kind of teaching each other about their time periods as they're falling in love, and they kind of bring the party to the train a lot of the times, so there are some different scenes and different stuff happening even though you are kind of in a isolated area, and it was really cute. I really enjoyed the romance, but also the growth that both these characters found. I liked the kind of mystery element going on in the background, and this found family. There was a lot of elements going on in the story, but overall, like, it made my heart feel warm, and I think back on it now, and it's still very heartwarming, and it's a book that I do think about still, and I want to go back and own and read and enjoy again. I just realized I did not tell you the books I did not like from August, so I only have one, and that's Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. It is like a short story. It's only, I don't even know if it's 100 pages, but I've been seeing it going around quite a bit on YouTube, and I was like, let's check this out. It's a short story, like, why not? No. This is like The Troop by Nick Cutter on steroids, and I couldn't do that one either. So if you do not like worms, do not go near this. If you don't like that kind of gruesome, gross body horror-ish, no. So went way far into gross land, and it was just gross. Basic plot idea is that these two girls like connect through the internet. They're writing back and forth emails to each other, and then they like decide on this relationship where one of them's going to be like dominant over the other one, and the other one will like pay for the one that's dominant, she's like, I'll pay for everything, you just have to listen to everything I say and do everything I say. So it's kind of the setup of the story, and it's just too gross for me. I found something that I just cannot do in horror, and that is gross worm nastiness. I guess that's where we're ending this video. If you guys enjoyed and will stick around and talk to me and let me know some of your favorite books you've read recently, because I would love to hear what you guys have been up to, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye guys.